And I'm Satish Chapparike, a journalist, novelist, and an entrepreneur from Bangalore. On behalf of KLF and beautiful city of Calicut, I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, 2024 Booker Prize winner Michael Hofmann, and 2018 JCB Literature Prize winner, and she's from our own daughter. She's from Kerala, Shahnaz Habib. Congratulations to both of you, and it's my pleasure and delighted to have you here. In fact, Michael is a legendary translator from German to English, and Shahnaz is from Malayalam to English. I think I can start with the legend himself. Hi, Michael. How are you feeling in Calicut, in this air-conditioned? It's for you.
There's a howling gale up here.
Okay.
And the lights are extreme, so I put on my spy glasses. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Lovely to meet you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, let's start our conversation with you only, Michael. See, do translators usually scream? But Shahnaz isn't entirely sure what translator scream means. But you certainly believe it holds a significance. What it means, Michael?
I think screaming is definitely on the daily agenda. Certainly at least weekly. And I don't want to make things worse by going "Ooh!" But it is a noise I make periodically from the strictures of translating. Look closer.
Yeah, maybe closer.
So screaming is definitely part of the process.
And from your journey from Germany to UK to US, in the meantime, you emerged as one of the world's greatest translator. And in fact, you come a family with a lot of literary tradition in it. Your grandfather was a editor of an encyclopedia in German, and father was a greatest novelist. And you turned out to be one of the finest poet. Then you became a critic, and then you became one of the greatest translators in the world. How this journey unfolded?
It's a journey I hope to make back as well. So not to end up in the USA, but to go back to England and possibly to Germany. It's not a one-way route. I think I was always very conscious growing up. I had literary conversations with my father from when I was yay high. My father read to us aloud from Kafka when I was 8, 10. I had Metamorphosis many times from him. He read from Thomas Mann. He read from Hofmann style. He read from various people, but it was a literary upbringing. Over time I had 3 sisters, but these things either take or they don't. Either you become something in your family line, or you leave the family line. And in my case, I hoped to write novels like a normal person. But unfortunately, I wasn't a normal person, and I could only write very self-conscious things for half a page. And I eventually adapted these into self-conscious little poems. And when I was in my mid-20s, I published poems, published book reviews. I've paid tribute to a certain kindness in the British scene, where at least to familiars or to people they trust, doors are open, and so you get offered books to review. A poet friend had a job with a publisher, with Chacho. They bought a German book from the 20s, Kurt Tucholsky, Schloss Gripsholm, Castle Gripsholm, and etc. Nobody knows translators. The English don't have much use for translation. But my poet friend said he knew a poet who was German, and he supposed I'd be up for it. That started. So there were no exams, there were no no qualifications. It's just the English hospitality, trust, really trust. And I then wanted to keep things going all at once. These mostly novels that I translated take a few months. Book reviews take a few weeks, and poems, if you're lucky enough to, if I'm lucky enough ever to write any, can write in a day or days.
So then I'll move to Shahnaz. And you started your journey as a poet again, like Michael, and then a travel writer and an essayist. And then suddenly you became one of the most sorted translator in Malayalam, especially when you translated Jasmine Days and it got an award. Especially Benny. Benny is the heartthrob of Malayalis now, and he is one of the celebrated Malayali novelists. And how that happened? Because you never tried translation before this, and suddenly Shahnaz came into light with Benny and an award in Jaipur, and how it happened?
Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. First of all, when you put it like that, there was the poem, the travel writing, the essay. It's like a list of crimes. And I feel like, oh yes, I did do that. Yes, mea culpa, I did do that. Yes, that too. I think I've always been looking for like the easiest genre in the world. So I first started out writing poetry because I thought, oh, I just have to write a few words. It's going to be super easy. And of course, I found out that poetry is really hard. It's probably the most difficult thing to write. Then I started writing essays because I thought, oh, it's just my life. I can write that down very easily. And of course, nonfiction is a whole web of deceit and betrayal. So then I thought, translation, that's easy. All I have to do is take somebody else's words and put them into English. I can do that. And translation is, of course, very hard to do, to get it right. It's easy to translate. It's very hard to get it right. So I think this is really just an unscientific experiment in trying to find the easiest genre to write in and finding out each time that actually each of these genres is very difficult.
So if you go back to your hypocrisy and cheekbone, that made you a celebrity in Indian poetry circle. And see, do you still write poetry or you stopped it?
I think being a celebrity in a poetic world is there's not much celebrity status to being a celebrity poet, I suppose. So I don't think I ever achieved that status. There are celebrity poets out there, of course. But yeah, I don't think I was ever a celebrity poet. I don't write poetry anymore for publication. I still write poems just for myself.
So you write for yourself, especially the poetry.
Yes.
Now you are more concentrated on translation works, if I'm right.
Translation and also my own nonfiction. So I just published a book it's a sort of passive-aggressive history of travel. So I'm more focused on my nonfiction and translation.
Coming back to Michael, see, are you still in the world of poetry or you are completely immersed yourself in translation? Because you are the most sorted and you are the most celebrated translator in the world. I think, if I'm right, you have translated around 100 titles from German to English. Where are those poetry or poems in your heart?
I mean, poems demand things like planetary realignments or something, and you just have to be very. I mean, I say you, and all the time I mean I, and I shouldn't do this. I have to be very lucky to write a poem. I still would like to. I still think of myself as a poet, or actors rest. I don't know what poets do. Poets hibernate, or poets have midlives, or something like that. I've always known that the decades between, say, 25 and 65 are pretty hellish. And I'm through the top of that, and I'm hoping to write the poems of my old age. Of course, there's work to be done, and so one does it. But at the same time, one would like to be one. I would like to be more than somebody who helps out. What Ezra Pound says. Lucis, who had intended a grand passion, ends up with a willingness to oblige.
So, if I go back to your early translator days, in general, what happens is the translation begins with your choice. Or is it imposed on you, or you choose some titles to translate from German to English? How that process started?
Well, there are books that I read in German and proposed to publishers. They're probably in a minority. I mean, the thing acquires its momentum and its systematics. So you translate one book by an author, maybe you translate another book by an author. You translate 10, 50, whatever, 20 books from the 20s. You translate another 20 books from the 20s. And it becomes sort of identified as your period. You work for a publisher. The publisher likes you, finds you reasonable, finds you cheap. You get to work for the publisher again. Hallelujah.
And this question is not mine. This question comes from the right side of this podium. Shahnaz has a question for you. I'll ask that question. And she has an interesting question to you, Michael. And how will your work days look during the translation process? How that process, the work days, she's asking for you, when you are translating, how it looks and how you process it in a systematic way. That is a question?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose computers changed everything, made everything much easier, and sort of leveled everything down. I'm sure the standard of all sorts of writing has gotten worse thanks to the facility of the computer. But I mean, I can remember a time. I mean, it's the whole argument about real musical instruments and synthesized things and the real experiences and mediated experiences, and everything is, we say in German, gone down the stream in the last 30 years. But I can remember what I would have my German text, and I would late at night when I'd be tired, I would scribble as long as I could. The translation rough, and then in the morning I would go to my father's old typewriter, and I would type out what I'd written and look up the words, because I would leave spaces for the words that if I didn't know them, and even if I did know them, because I'm German and I'm conscientious, even if I did know the words, I would look them up. And then in the afternoon I would go swimming. And I would have a sort of tripartite day of writing by hand and sleeping and typing and swimming. And the whole thing, that really would be my days. And I can remember I translated a big Swiss novel about a cow by Bert Sterchi called Blush, like this, in 86, I'm guessing. And that's it's a sort of 400-page book about a cow and a Spanish guest worker. And that was the book probably that made me a translator. And before that, I had really only done occasional things. And after this, I've called myself an industrial translator, somebody who almost, the German word is Fleischwolf, who processes, who synthesizes German words and sentences and makes English out of them. And it is doing a kind of violence to myself, but I mean, I've throughout always wanted not to have things easy.
Thank you. Thank you for this, your question.
Scream.
And I would love to get your answer, Shahnaz, for your own question.
Sure, yeah. Of course. I mean, it depends on, there are good work days and bad work days. I'll try and describe a good work day. I work pretty full-time beyond, translation and my own writing. So I have to fit in that work, my creative work, in the off hours, in the hours outside of work. So it's usually on a good day, if I'm able to get up early enough in the morning to get in some translation before the rest of the day starts, while my family is still sleeping. And I find that, because with translation, you already have a page to work off of, it's so much more friendly to a writer. It's not as intimidating as a completely blank page, right? So you can sort of lull yourself into sitting down and starting to type at the least, because you already have something to work off of. And like the acoustics are a bit weird. I actually cannot hear.
It's very hard to hear each other.
But I've translated your answer in my head from English to English via the bad acoustics. And I think you said that you aim for a page a day. Is that right?
Much more than that.
Much more than that. See, okay.
But 5 or 10.
5 or 10, yeah.
Really a lot. But very rough, horrid
right,
rough.
Like a rough draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. I aim for a page a day because, of course, I'm just doing it for like half an hour. I think half an hour a page, if I do that, I just count it a success. And obviously, again, like Michael said, it's a very rough translation. I was really happy to hear you say that you leave some words blank when you don't know their meaning, because I always feel very guilty. I'm a bad translator when I do that, but obviously one of the world's best translators has just said that he does that, so now I'm not going to feel guilty anymore. So yes, so I leave a lot of blank words. I sometimes call up my parents and ask, what does this mean? Or I look up the dictionaries. So yeah, so that's a very rough description of a good work day.
So in your case, you work up to now, you worked only with Benjamin.
Yes, that's right, so
but
far.
The legend sitting in between us has worked with many authors.
Yes.
Half an hour I can give the list of those authors, because 90 books. I'll mention few names: Kafka, Joseph Roth, Hans Fallada, Hatta Muller, Patrick Suskind, and Wolfgang Koppen. If my pronunciation is wrong, please forgive me. And my question for you, Michael, see, when you're working with different authors, you're translating different authors, and is that an easy job, or you have to have a different mindset to translate a different authors? How that process happens within your mind and heart?
Well, there's all kinds of language, and I mean, I start from the premise that I like and I'm in some sympathy, very minimum, but usually much more, much more, with the book I'm doing, and I think it's like lots of things involving translation use metaphors or similes. It's like this or it's like that, and you're a conductor, you're a musician, you're a ballerina, whatever it is. I think I've sort of instrumentalized myself, and I think I play the music of others, and that's really what the job is. And there's an element of mortification in it. I mean, there is a whole. I mean, I think translation is not not altogether a healthy or normal activity, but that's okay too, because we're not here on the planet to indulge ourselves. And we're here to be useful, and there are these books in my case German, and these possible readers for them, and I make it possible for the readers to read these books, and that's about it. It's like a form of it's a sort of form of copying. It's both a trustworthy and a kind of disreputable activity. But I'm probably making my peace with it, or just about making my peace with it. I'm proud of what I've done. I think in the line of my father, who wrote 12 books in 10 years and dropped dead. I think we're here to turn ourselves into books. Kafka says, Literatur, aus der ich bestehe, literature of which I am composed, and I would like to sort of annex that remark and say, we are words. We are here to make words, to make as good words as we can.
See, in your case, let's keep aside Jenny and Cairo at this moment out. And before that itself, you have almost translated 90 books. Which one is your favorite work, if I ask you?
I have a few, but I mean, I was translating my father when he died, and in a sense it meant for the first time. Because I'm leery of I mean, I didn't want to end up as my father's translator. That's just a fact. That is too demeaning or too serviceable. I have shame in me, but I have pride in me as well. So I was translating his book called The Film Explainer when he died, and I was on page 70 or something, and then he died, and there was the whole book in front of me, and in a way it meant that he was as alive on page 80 as he'd been on page 70. I translated the two subsequent books of his, the last 3 books he wrote, all of which he wrote having had a stroke, and which he wrote by dictating them to my mother. I translated the Hofmann late trilogy. The film explainer, a book called Luck, and Lichtenberg and the Flower Girl. I think my other favourite book would be Wolfgang Köppen, whom you mentioned, a book called Death in Rome. Köppen is a novelist from, in this time from the 50s, and wrote 3 books in very quick time. Basically, sort of attacking attacking and fearing the post-war settlement, so-called, of Europe, and the sort of rearmament and NATO, and I think they're great and sort of dithyrambic surges of books about Germany and being German. I do think it's a mission of mine to inform on Germany. I mean, in a sense, almost to denounce or to purvey truths about Germany, and that's always been an element of my translating.
So, Shahnaz, I'll come back to you. Most of us in the literary world, we know that translation is not an easy work. It's a very demanding and very creative work. What is your perception on it, and what are your thoughts on challenges and complexities of translation compared to creating original work?
So comparing translation to like to original work. Got it. I think translation for me is like a place to play, a place to sort of be experimental, a place to enjoy just getting my hands dirty with words, and it's kind of like playing in the mud. Whereas I think, unfortunately, writing, original creative writing has become much more fraught, and you feel a sense of pressure or higher sort of because again, like I said earlier, there's this blank page waiting for you every day, and it's sort of filled with all this potential that it's not going to achieve, right? And with translation, there isn't that same pressure. So I feel like I've carved out a space for translation as this place of play and joy for me, and that's what keeps drawing me to translation. So yeah, that's a short answer. Like many translators, I also write my own work, and it's really interesting to see the interplay between those two things. When I translate, I'm translating from Malayalam, right? And when I write my own work, I'm writing in English. And one thing that I really love seeing is how, writers writing in Malayalam, like Benjamin, whom I translate a lot, they're writing to a community. They're not writing to an audience. Whereas as someone writing in like a big world language, I'm not really writing to a small community of readers. Theoretically, at least, because English is, there are 500 million speakers. Malayalam, I think it's about 35 million, right? So theoretically, at least, writing in English, you're writing to this vast audience, and the face of that audience is very critical, at least in my head. Whereas I think writers writing in Malayalam, in a regional language, to a small audience, there's this sense of, I'm writing to my own people. And I think that frees up a certain space for taking chances with your writing, using craft in interesting ways, which, as a writer writing in English, in a very brutal publishing ecosystem, I don't do that. So for me, translation is this place of inspiration and play and joy.
It's pain and joy also. It's a pain and joy also.
I have no idea what to say, but I will agree.
And Michael, the thing is, what's your perspective on this? Especially when in a creative translation, do you think the translator has greater responsibility than original writer?
I missed the last part. Sorry, I missed the last part.
In a creative translation, does the translator has more responsibility than original writer?
I like Shahnaz stress on play. What to say? Responsibility. I mean, there's I suppose our positions are a little bit different, and I mean I don't have a sense. I don't have this the sense of a warm, supportive audience, and I really am only aware of the demanding or insatiable, not really insatiable, but uninterested, or both. English mega Anglo-American audience, and I'm really just trying to put German books into that sort of satellite orbit, so that they hang there alongside Martin Amis or whatever else the English want to read, and to try and see that German. I mean, my discovery, I suppose, when I was in my 20s, was that German classics didn't really exist for the English, and so what I started doing was really sort of a lot of remedial translation. So doing Kafka, getting to do another Berlin Alexanderplatz, the first one in 80 years, things like that, because the English have been, yes, they are trusting, but in a way they don't really, they're not really interested. And I to kind of go against that lack of interest, I had to try and make things that would pass as English. So almost kind of nativize them, make them seem almost sort of extravagantly English, just in a way of getting them to pass. There's an element of play in that, and there's an element of subterfuge too, of disguise, of being launching these spy books in an alien culture.
See, how do you balance staying true to your original text and the new audience in front of you? Especially, see, as Shahnaz told, in original text, it's written for a community. Even in case of German, or if you take Malayalam, it is for one language and one community. In case of English, you are reaching the wider audience across the globe. Then how you are going to be true to your original text, and also you have to take care of the new audience also? How do you manage it?
Well, I mean, the only pivotal moment is the moment where you decide to commit to a book, and that a book is strong enough and good enough and will travel, will keep, is really worth doing, or worth my doing, and that's the moment you get on it, and the train goes, and it takes you with it. As I say, it's the translation world is really nothing but a sort of a bundle of metaphors, metaphorical expressions. So it's your judgment that a book has the stability and the interest, the originality, the intensity, that it basically that it deserves to be translated.
Shahnaz, how is easy to work with Benny or how difficult is to translate his novels? Because you have to be very careful. We are in Kerala.
That's true, yes. Well, Benny's very easy to work with. I can tell you that straight away. He's very used to being translated. He's very prolific as a writer. So he has many translators that he's worked with, and he knows how translation works. So his sort of modus operandi is go do your thing. Let me know if you need help. So he's very easy to work with. And I've translated 2 books, Jasmine Days and Al Arabian. And the novel that I'm now translating is a book that is a little different. It's set in Kerala. It's set in a very small Christian community in Kerala. It's for Malayalam readers, it's Mandalirille 20 Nasrani Varshangal, all of which takes place in the small village where the church and the Communist Party have this huge tussle, and there's this family who sort of embodies that tussle. And that book, I've told Benjamin that I need a lot of help with, just because it's set in the setting, the church politics, the family squabbles, even the regional dialect of that particular village. It's all, even though I am from Kerala, it is an unfamiliar world for me. So for that book, I think we'll have to have a much more collaborative process. But yeah, he's very happy to step in when I need help, and very happy to give me a very long rope when I don't. Yeah.
Can he help you?
Say again?
And can he help you?
I think he can help me just understand the world a little bit more. I'll have questions like I was looking through our WhatsApp chats a while ago, and I was asking him questions like, well, when you say the Malayalam word sabha, is it okay to refer to it as a church? It's not really church. And we were talking about how English doesn't really have a word for sabha. And so things like that, where we can kind of collaboratively sort of figure out the deficiencies of English rather than, so it's more of a moral support.
Is it like a prayer house or something? Whatever a prayer house is?
It's not exactly a prayer house. It's not a physical church. It's more like the idea of a church community, diocese, but it's not exactly a physical diocese either. Yeah. So yes, we sometimes just rant about the lacks in English. Yes, and that's helpful.
Holes in English. Yeah.
Yes, grumbling together, very helpful.
Yeah. So you're born and brought up in Kerala. You moved to US somewhere around 2 decades back, I think.
Yes.
Approximately. And how far you can understand Malayalam very well, and how it's possible for you to fluently translate Benny or any other, because Malayalam has a lot of good authors, and are you aiming to translate few other authors also, or you want to stick to Benny only?
I mean, so far I've just been translating Benjamin novels. It's not because I want to stick with one author. It's just that his novels delight me, and I've just been working on them one after the other. And I mean, I think I was joking with, I think Govind the other day about how my real mother tongue is Manglish, like Malayalam and English. So, I live in New York. Obviously, I'm speaking English most of the time. When I talk to my family, it's in Malayalam. I read Malayalam books. So it's always a bit of a balancing act, right? Like you move through both languages during the day, depending on the context. So yes, there are definitely times when I don't feel like I know exactly this particular Malayalam word, what that means, or there might be certain, I'll tell you this. The thing that I find hardest to translate in Malayalam is descriptions of nature. Because even growing up in Kerala, I was an urban kid, right? I grew up in Ernakulam. There are no trees in Ernakulam. It's very urban. It's very, there's lots of development going on. And when I read Malayalam books in which there's lots of descriptions of nature, of trees, of birds, of plants, I don't know the words in English. Yesterday when we were coming from Ernakulam to Calicut, my mother in the car, she just started this game where she was like, oh, let's talk about place names that start with the names of trees. It's like Alamoda, Panangada, words like that. And I was thinking, oh, it would never occurred to me that these are actually names of trees or plants, place names based on names of, vegetation. Because that's not how I see nature and vegetation. All my language for that is in English. So that's one example of something I find hard to translate.
Okay, I'll come back to you again. And Kafka and Michael and Metamorphosis. I think in 90 years, almost Metamorphosis is translated by more than 20 times to English, if I'm right.
By how many? By many?
Huh?
How many metamorphoses?
20 translations.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning of that story, there is a sentence and he wakes up with a
sentence.
Yeah. In all the cases, it's bug, vermin, or something else. In your case, it's cockroach.
Yes.
How that happened?
Well, I call it the Florida Kafka. In German it's Gregor wachte aus unruhigen Träumen als ungeheures Ungeziefer. All these as a kind of non thing. I think here too the English lack of nature words is a factor. Ungeziefer, I mean, the vermin in English is not a useful word because it can be anything between a thing you can't, a flea or something that you can't see, to something that I describe as being as long as your leg. It could still be a vermin. And it's not a beetle, it's not a bug, which is a kind of silly American children's word anyway. I think bug is a complete no-hoper as a word for Ungeziefer. The book had been translated before, it was going to be translated again. I thought, why not say what Kafka means and call Gregor a cockroach? Because this is a coefficient of his distrust of himself, his dislike of himself, his sexual squeamishness and loathsomeness. Kafka often plays with his own name in the name of his characters. Here it's Gregor Samsa. Samsa is like a rhyme or consonantal displacement anyway of Kafka. The German for a cockroach is Kakerlake. Kafka, I'm sure, would have, it's only one word from Kafkalake, which is, I mean, his own name is one letter away from the cockroach. It's too close for him actually to do it, to call himself that in German. It's too vicious or too destructive. But there's no reason not to do it in English. And then other milder translations will come along with a bug or a monstrous insect. And I mean, I kind of despise all of them. I mean, it's just feeble. Anyway.
Okay, let's move to Kairos now. The right place and a right time and a right award. And congratulations. And here is the book winning Cairo translated by the legend, and it's considered as one of the finest original writing and also one of the greatest translation done. And here is a chance for you, all of you, to get it signed by the original author and the greatest translator.
Secondary author and copyist.
I think Jenny vanished from here. She is not here. I saw her here, and she is there. Where is she? Jenny. And last night when we three are speaking to each other, Jenny told that Cairo happened in a different way. You have not approached an agent or Jenny directly. An agent approached you to pick this title and translate it to English. Because now it's a Booker winner, we want to know the story behind it.
Well, I was told that that Jenny Erpenbeck had lost or somehow mislaid a previous translator, and wondered if I would translate her next book. And unseen, I said I was extremely interested, and when I got it to read, I thought it was. I mean, it's this moment of where you say, yes, this will fly. I would love to do this. I'm really lucky to have been asked to do this. I think it's obviously formidable and brave and really encompassing and intricate book. And I'm lucky to have been asked to set my stamp on it. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Not having the awful tyranny of the white page, but you wake up and in German, Märchen, the shoemakers' elves have written pages for you, and you should be so lucky. Will you come to my funeral?
Okay. And congratulations once again. And before I can wrap up, and yeah, you did it. Exactly 50 minutes. Before we wrap up, we would like to have some questions from the audience. And you have to ask questions to both of them.
Hello. Hi. My question is for Michelle. I think in one of the interviews, you say that I'd rather like my works to be running in English rather than limping after German. That sentence, struck me and it just stayed with me. So I wanted to know, how did your philosophy of translation evolve over the time to arrive at that, where you can say that more than it being authentic to the original author or work, I would rather give importance to fluency. I'm rather comfortable with having my stamp on it. I mean, that's what I have seen in your interviews, where people say that, I've read only Kairos, so people say that, the author can be different, but we can see Michel Hofmann in every translated work.
Thank you. I hope both. I hope I'm sure the authors do still see themselves in their books. It would be a horrible crime to have displaced them. Not at all. And I think over time, over the years, I think I've become maybe excessively aware of being in competition with English books, and therefore trying to make German books that I do compete or even as I said, pass. I mean, be seem English, be Anglified. But certainly, it's really important that there are always exceptions, but that there is this fluency, this smoothness, that the reader knows where they are, that the reader feels well taken care of, and I think that's kind of that's the service. I mean, to take care of the reader, to take care of the English reader, to say it's okay. I know you don't like translations. I know you're scared when there are two names on the title page, but it's okay. Really, trust me. That's what I do.
Hello, I would like to thank the KLF Forum for providing a platform for this translation. It's a beautiful evening, really, in fact. Translation, as Mr. Chapparike said, translation is not an easy job at all. Translating, you have to, whole idea, you have to conceive that first, and you have to taste that, and you have to transfer it to another person. You see, you have transferred Daivat and Vikritical, I have studied in Canada. And Shahabuddin, I am studying in Canada. So many, you are really a bridge between readers and the writers. But most of the time, both of the creative writers, you have put your energy for this translation. How much credit you get out of that? Whether sometime, whether you will have that anguish left with you. I would have done my own work instead of translating. Definitely, it's an ecstasy. It's an ecstasy, you will get that. Some readers and contemporary writer will ask you, better you can concentrate on your creative work. Why have you indulged in the translation? Have you faced the challenges?
So if I can summarize your question, you're asking about whether the credit for a book should be for a translator versus the original writer. Is that what you're asking, sir? Okay. I mean, obviously there would be no translation without the original. So, of course, a huge part of the credit goes to the original. But I'm also, I never think of it in terms of a mathematical calculation, right? You're not thinking about, is it 50-50, 75-25? It's not something that should add up to 100 and you split it. So it's very hard to answer the question of an exact credit split.
I like the idea that it not come to 100. I think that's very nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I don't think any translations I've done are my work or anything like that. But I've helped.
Any more questions from the audience? Anil, you have a question?
Yeah, hello. My question is to Michael, and I read your poem last week on Rose. Some of the poems were online, and on Rose I have read it. So I realized, and I'm also a German student. I'm doing my advanced course in German language. But what I want to ask you is, in English, when we read the poem, there will be meter, rhymes, and all. does it apply the same in German as well when you do the poems?
I think he was asking whether there's like rhymes and meter in German poetry as well.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you wouldn't know it from from poem translations I've done, but yes, I mean, but it's to do with the different capacities of the language to retain dignity or variety. I mean, English went through modernism in the 1910s when the pentameter line and rhyme were experimentally ditched, and people tried finding other ways of making a poem. It's. I mean, I do think it's. I mean, it took me a long time to get around to translating many poems, and I've translated three books of German poets. I don't have a particularly good conscience about it. I think they are. I mean, I'm sure they're diminished, but it's one reason I did go to prose and mainly with prose is because it travels better. And I think if you're really serious about wanting to read a poet, there is no alternative to the original. But as a way of helping an English person to read something like what Gottfried Benn might be, then I'm happy to have tried.
I think it's time up. We have to. Thank you so much, both of you, and thank you so much for the audience. And it's a wonderful time we had, and a big applause for 2 award winners. And see you again. Have a wonderful time in KLF. Thank you.